at Cadwell Park in the heart of Lincolnshire, a track where talent outweighs power. It's the penultimate round. This is ThundersportGB.
Welcome back to ThundersportGB here at Cadwell Park, the penultimate round of the season. The RLR Motorsports 600 Sportsman Elite exit Parc Ferme. And you can see there's a big crowd forming for this one. A championship with Formula 600s, tuned engines and Superstock 600s, all fighting it out in one big race. Now, in the separate championships, a big congratulations to Tom McHale, crowned Formula 600 champion, and Danny Murphy, crowned Superstock 600 champion. But the one they all want is the overall outright 600 championship, the RLR Motorsports.com 600 Sportsman Elite. It is close, really, really close. And the man on form so far this weekend, it seems, Danny Murphy, number 23, just on the left of your picture there, the red and white Yamaha R6, the red background and the yellow numbers. Tom McHale, well, you shouldn't be able to miss him. As ever, he's out there on his fluorescent yellow Honda on the left of your screen there, number 4, but he didn't get off to the greatest of starts in qualifying, so he's got a bit of catching up to do as they all head into Coppice Corner and around Charlie's and down into Park Corner. That's Dan Neen that leads. You remember Dan from the first race here on ThundersportGB. He's racing in the 600s and the GP1s, and unfortunately he crashed into Hall Ben's last time out, but Dan is no slouch on a 600 either, the 25-year-old fourth. Oh my word, that is an enormous crash in the background at the gooseneck. A really fast place to be coming off there, and that is that Josh Daly? It is. It's Josh Daly that's down. Josh has got a 600 for the weekend. You've just seen him crash out of the 400 race, and oh, I do hope he's okay, because that is a fast place to be coming off here at Cadwell Park. Well, it's almost maybe speechless, that one, as the leaders come through, and that is good to see. Josh obviously a bit winded as he walks away. Well, I'm not sure the bike will fare quite so well, but nevertheless, back to the racing at the front of this one. Dan Neen it is that leads, number 15. Danny Murphy on the inside. And we should just say a warm welcome back for Richard McNeil as well, a rider that was battling in the Formula 600 Championship last year with Ben Field. He is back with us this weekend, number 22 on the Suzuki, up at the sharp end. There he is in third. Danny Murphy, however, moves up into the lead of the champion, the lead of this race. He is the Superstock 600 champion of this season, and he is flying. His pace would put him up in well inside the top 10 of the, in fact, the top 5 of the GP1 race. He is going some as the leading group of riders come down into Mansfield. There's Tom McHale down in 6th place, the current championship leader overall. He has an 8-point lead going into this race, so it is all to play for in the Sportsman Elite 600s at this penultimate round. Dan Neen doesn't necessarily feature in the championship, but he could have a big impact on it, as could Richard McNeil, because they are taking up some precious places there as Tom McHale looks to get his way into the picture. Tom, of course, has blitzed the field in so many races this year, but Danny Murphy has just been so consistent. He's had 10 podiums in this class this year, and the field has always been very strong. So we lost Josh Daly at the start of this one. Further back, looking down, that's number 15, Luke Buckingham. Oh, sorry, so I've got that wrong. Dan Neen's actually running number 5, as there's a change up there. That's number 100, Connor Tagg. Connor, who has gone through more colour schemes this season than I care to remember. I don't know if he's just trying to make my life difficult, but Connor Tagg up there as per usual. Number 76 going through there, and number 194, that's Dan Shaler and Bill Callister just trying to get themselves up into the top 20 of this very competitive race. But it is the rider from Rochdale riding the Kepston EPDL Yamaha R6, Danny Murphy, that leads from Dan Neen from the Isle of Man on the Marks Bloom Suzuki. And then in third place there, that is Connor Tagg, number 100. Now, Connor is listed as having a Suzuki 600. I have to say that last shot I just saw, it doesn't look like a Suzuki to me. That looks very much like a Yamaha R6, and indeed it is as he goes across the line. Number 22 in fourth place, Richard McNeil, as I mentioned, back on the scene. The Ulsterman, good to have him in the paddock, and he's fighting away for a podium. Further back, McHale in fifth place. Curtis Wright is up there. Matt Shelcock, Ross Ashman, Dave Hewson, Barry Teasdale, Simon Critchlow. Simon Critchlow, of course, leading the Armed Forces Championship of the RAF, head of the Army and the Navy. There is Tom McHale, number 4, rider from Grange over Sands on the AJ Hayton Fabricators Honda, looking to try and wrap up this championship. That's going to go down to Mallory, there's no doubt about it. Late in October, that event at Mallory Park, the final round of the season, and there are a good half, I'd say, of the championships still up for grabs at ThundersportGB. Good stuff, but the front of this race by no means done. Connor Tagg in the background, massive moment. We've got Danny Murphy that leads, but remember, he's on a super stock bike. Dan Neen in second on a Formula 600 bike. Now, there may not be too much difference in power. It depends on how much power that Dan's bike has got. But either way, Danny Murphy is on lap record pace here in this class, with Connor Tagg trying to close the gap down all the while in third place. Across the line they go now. Danny Murphy it is that leads, and look at the view, you can see the speed advantage that Dan's got there as he closes in, but he just can't find a way past. There's number 71. That's Ross Ashman up inside the top 8. Ross currently 4th in the Super Stock Championship, and in with a shout of coming in third. Dan Neen really pressing into Park Corner there, just trying to keep up with Danny Murphy that went to the BSB last year and just didn't seem to get enough track time. Managed superb qualifying, if memory serves me right, at Snetterton, but then has come back this year for plenty more track time, and just to get to grips with the 600 all over again. And it really has worked out a treat, because he's got a lot of racecraft under his belt now, and he is leading a strong field here at Cadwell Park. He leads Dan Neen, who was the first rider to win a hat-trick at the Manx. So, a pretty good scalp, I would say. Across the line, the pair of these guys have broken away from Connor Tagg now, who's just lapping inside the 133. There is Tom McHale, just about inside the top 5 or 6, and he needs as many points as possible. We've got a rider down there on the exit of the new chicane here at Cadwell, and could try and get a number. I couldn't quite see who that was. We've lost a number of riders. I'm wondering if that's Sam Thompson, you know, number 50. Sam has gone missing from the timesheets. Riders, we also lost Kyle Wilkes on the 4th lap, a rider that was up in the top 10. But as it is, the race leader here on the red, white and black Yamaha R6, coming up to put a lap on. Is that Charlie Oakland or Michael Golden as they come around? That's 156. In fact, it's neither. It's Paul Goodwin. So into the hairpin they go, lapping the newcomer. There is McHale fighting away with Richard McNeil for 4th place. And McNeil, well, he finished 2nd in this championship last year. The last lap flag is out now. And what a great lap that was from Danny Murphy, a 133.1. And I'd say that's probably thousandths of a second away from the lap record for Danny Murphy, and it looks like it could be in the bag. Tom McHale, he could do with hanging on to 4th place here. He really could. Richard McNeil doesn't feature in the championship. He can ill afford to lose another place, because this man here at the front will take 25 points. And I tell you what, Danny Murphy could end up leading the championship into the final round here, and that is a turn up for the books. I didn't see that one coming a couple of rounds ago. Down into Mansfield we go. Danny Murphy, not only the Superstock leader, but the outright leader, ahead of Dan Neen on the Formula 600 machine. Neen hasn't got much left to offer, I don't think. In third place, Connor Tagg, I think, is safe to remain on the rostrum overall. Into the chicane at the bottom of the mountain they go, and up over the hilltop and into all bends. And Dan Neen is really pushing, actually, in the final stages of this race. He may even try and make a move on Danny Murphy into the hairpin if he can, as they go down, but late on the brakes there from Danny Murphy defending his line. Richard McNeil's got ahead of Tom McHale, so McNeil has got up into fourth place, and that's yet more bad news for Tom McHale, who was the championship leader. Oh, they're side by side as they go across the line, but it is going to be Danny Murphy that just wins this one from Dan Neen, and that matters a lot in the championship. There are the confirmation of the results. Murphy wins from Neen, Connor Tagg third, McNeil fourth ahead of Tom McHale, and Curtis Wright takes sixth place, beating Matt Shelcock. There is the super stock podium. Murphy from Tagg and Curtis Wright. And the Formula 600 podium, Dan Neen wins from McNeil and Tom McHale. Championship standings, look at that. Danny Murphy leads going into the final round, all to play for, ahead of Tom McHale.
Dan Neen, winner of the Formula 600, an excellent race out there. How's Cadwell for you?
Yeah, it was good. I didn't have such a good day yesterday. I was sort of far back on the grid, but today, yeah, it was real close, hard to pass as well, so made it a bit tricky, but yeah, Suzuki was working great, and just like to thank Mark's Podium Chartered Accountants, Slick Performance, PFM Brake Systems, Colas as well. Yeah, it's been great.
I hope to see a similar performance in the next race. Thank you.
Hopefully, thanks a lot.
And winner of the Superstock 600 and 2012 champion, Danny Murphy, finally get the chance to talk to you. How was the race?
Yeah, it was a great race. I got a good start for once. I've been all weekend. It was a bit tricky to pass Dan at first. I wanted to try and make the break, but I just couldn't. It was riding really quick. We broke the lap record, so he was obviously on form. But I'd just like to thank all my sponsors for this year: Kepston, EPDL, Hurst Property Management, Dave Tully's, Fleet Graphics, Nitro, Dainese Manchester, obviously my dad and Graham for bringing me to the track, I guess.
We hope to see another win from you. Thank you.
Yeah, same here. Thanks.
Well, 3 of the 4 championships you've seen today are going down to the final round at Mallory. We'll join you then. Myself, Steve Day, and Grace Webb down in pit lane. Join us again.
Moped, sports bikes, you save watts. Any bike, it makes no odds. We will give you what you need. Best price always guaranteed. Come to us and get a quote. You'll be singing note for note. Walk away with cash to spend on anything you want, my friend. Bike Insurer, Bike Insurer, Bike Insurer.
Get the cheapest bike insurance, guaranteed, only from the Bike Insurer.
The RLR Motorsports.com 600 Sportsman Elite, a championship that's going down to the wire. Here, number 1. That is for Danny Murphy. He's just been crowned the Super Stock 600 champion at ThundersportGB, so well done to Danny. Finally got himself a ThundersportGB championship. Tom McHale has been crowned champion of the Formula 600s, but it's overall that we're concentrating on. Formula 600s tuned, almost super sport machinery pretty much out there on circuit against super stock, out of the crate bikes with a few tweaks here and there. And you can see number 1, Danny Murphy on pole. Next to him, Lee Williams. Now, if you've been watching the HMT pre-national races, you'll recognise Lee because he's been doing very well. He likes the slightly dodgy conditions, an ex-supermoto rider, as the grid girls walk off the grid. On the right there is Dan Neen, experienced TT rider, just 25 years old, and of course a British Championship competitor in British Superbikes last year. But on the left, there is Danny Murphy, not getting off to a very good start at all. In fact, Danny all year long, really, has had some shocking starts. But he makes up for it in his overall pace. But it is Dan Neen that has taken the lead. Dan doesn't feature in the championship points side of things, so it shouldn't make too much of a difference. But the two men you need to look out for, number 1, Danny Murphy, and number 4, Tom McHale. Tom, you can't really miss. He's on the Dayglow yellow Honda, just going through your picture there with the black and white leathers. A welcome return also to Richard McNeil, number 22, last year's runner-up. He's not been out all year due to lack of funds and not being able to get the sponsorship together, but he's got himself on a bike here for this weekend, and it's just a sign of his talent that he's been able to get straight up into the sharp end, because the top 15, I would say, of this class are very, very talented riders. There's Kyle Wilkes, number 32, a rider that's been dipping in and out of the Super Stock Championship at British Championship level all year. Curtis Wright, another Thundersport regular, doing well. But it's Dan Neen that leads on the Formula 600, the more powerful bike. There's Dave Hewson, number 119 on the nicely coloured orange and blue Yamaha R6. Neen has a look over his shoulder and sees Danny Murphy. Danny, incidentally, has absolutely obliterated the Super Stock 600 lap record around here. The conditions have been less than ideal so far at Cadwell Park, and yet he's knocked a good 0.8 of a second out of the lap record that was previously held by Seb Bulpin, the champion of 2010. There is Dan Neen going through. In fact, the outright lap record at 600s in ThundersportGB belongs to Lee Jackson. That's Lee Jackson Sr., I should add, the uncle of Lee Bob Jackson, who's currently in the Superstock Championship. And Danny Murphy on a stock bike is only 3 or 4 tenths off that. So Murphy absolutely flying. Fully deserves the Superstock 600 Championship. He managed to win that ahead of Andy Lawson. And he is being followed by Kyle Wilkes there on the Kawasaki number 32 and Richard McNeil. So we've got the more powerful tuned engines in first and fourth, and 2 super stock machines just sandwiched in there in second and third. But Danny Murphy has been impressive all year long. The rider from Rochdale on the Kepston EPDL Yamaha R6. And I would imagine that Danny will probably enter 1 or 2 British Championship rides next year. And thanks to the racecraft and the speed that he's gained from this year, he will go into one of those races and you'll probably see him appearing regularly in the top 10. Certainly hope so for his sake, as we see number 194 going through there, Bill Callister, and 311 Dan Hill. Into Coppice Corner we go. Oof. Wobbling the front end. There's a few bumps just on the approach to Park Corner, but either way, Danny Murphy really is pushing his Yamaha. He's thinking about a move into the gooseneck. That's really quick round there, as we see Barry Teasdale, number 224, and number 38, Dan Harrison, fighting it out with Jody Chalk for the remaining points. Every point counts in this championship, but Dan Neen at the front of this, experienced British Championship rider and the only man to have won a hat-trick at the Manx, leads from Danny Murphy, rider that started out in the Aprilia Super Teens with Thundersport in 08, then went on to the 450s, and following year went into the British Superstock 600 Championship. I remember him getting a very good qualifying together at Snetterton in particular, but has come back this year just to get his racecraft back, get some more track time, and it's worked a treat. There is the orange and black Kawasaki of number 914. Curious number, that's Greg Gilfillan. Across the line, well, despite being down on power, the drive that Danny Murphy got out of Barn Corner has meant that he's moved up into first place. Across the line there goes Sam Thompson and Simon Critchlow. Simon Critchlow, I should just mention, is leading the Armed Forces Championship, a side championship at ThundersportGB. It's held between Royal Navy, Royal Air Force riders and the Army. Dan Neen here doing everything he can, using all of his British Championship experience to try and just stay on the toes of Danny Murphy, who is lapping in the 1:33.1. So previous lap record was a 1:33.9. Now it belongs to Danny Murphy. So what of Tom McHale, who entered this weekend as the Sportsman Elite Championship leader? Well, Tom is currently just a couple of places behind Richard McNeil in 7th, ahead of Lee Williams. So Lee Williams is having a good run, but Tom McHale losing precious points all the time, and if he's not careful, he could we could be going down to the final round at Mallory Park in 2 weeks' time, with this one separated by single digits in terms of points, with just 3 races remaining. There is Tom McHale, actually, just going up ahead of Dave Hewson and Ross Ashman, I think that was, Simon Critchlow, Sam Thompson, and then all of these riders fighting it out for points. Paul Charman there, Luke Buckingham's having a good race. Luke, a local rider to Cadwell Park and getting himself up ahead of Callister, Shayla, Booth, Gilfillan, Goodwin, Golden and Charlie Oakland. Meanwhile, the #1 plate, having secured the Superstock 600 Championship, he is flying. There's Kyle Wilkes, number 32, ahead of Richard McNeil. And then 100, Connor Tagg. We've not really seen too much of Connor in this race, but he's coming on strong now. He's into the 134s. Connor Tagg still very much a chance of getting in the top 3 of this championship overall, a former 450 rider himself, and he's changed onto an R6 this weekend, having spent most of the year on a Suzuki GSX-R 600. Danny Murphy now extending the gap over Dan Neen for 1st and 2nd, and Connor Tagg looking to try and make a move on number 32, Kyle Wilkes. Connor from Reading, still very young really. He's only able to try out a 600 at the start of this season because he's only just old enough to ride one. There is Richard McNeil, runner-up to Ben Field in the championship last year. A winner of a number of races. Nice to see him back here at ThundersportGB. Number 17 there, James Shaw, scrapping it out with Barry Teasdale for the remaining points. Back at the front though, Danny Murphy. There's been no stopping the rider from Rochdale. Dan Neen there from Braddon in the Isle of Man on the Max Bloom Racing Suzuki. Oh, look at that! Wild into Park Corner from Kyle Wilkes. And Connor Tagg on the AL Joinery Yamaha 6 shaking his head because he had nothing to do there other than go straight on and onto the grass. Kyle almost wiping out the pair of them, and that's a problem for Ross Ashman, who runs straight on at Park Corner, and you can see how slippery the grass is and how wet it is with the shine on the tyres. But Ross Ashman's lost out on a few places there, so he's got a bit of work to make up for. Danny Murphy's lead now up to around about 2 or 3 seconds, just looking so smooth at the moment, so confident, and that is promising for him, taking into the winter and ready for the 2013. Ex-kart racer Danny Murphy, in fact, back in 2007 and 8, decided to make the switch over to bike racing, and I don't think it went down all that well to begin with. He was quite an accomplished kart racer, but any of you that have been involved in the business will know that kart racing is pretty expensive. Not that bike racing is cheap, but Danny decided to make the switch over, and it seems to be working well. The champion of the Super Stock Series for 2012 looks like he's got this one in the bag. Connor Tagg has got past Kyle Wilkes now and has stretched out a good gap over him as well, as Danny Murphy comes into Park Corner for the final time here on this last lap. Just coming up on some traffic. Around Chris Curve he goes, and he's going to pick his line wisely into the gooseneck. There is Michael Golden being lapped by Connor Tagg. Connor, well, a good couple of laps here from Connor into the 134s. He's not going to catch Dan Neen, but he's done well to get in the top 3. He would, well, ultimately he's going to finish 2nd in the Superstock category, ahead of Kyle Wilkes. And as far as the Formula 600 Championship goes, it's currently Dan Neen ahead of Tom McHale. Ahead of Richard McNeil and Tom McHale. So Tom McHale is actually going to lose some big points here. It's going to be close going into Mallory. over the top of the mountain and into Hall Bends. Here comes the Superstock champion, but he's looking to make it 2 championships in 1. I have to say, I think this is one of the most competitive championships within Thundersport GB. So to win the Superstock is one thing, to win the Sportsman Elite is another altogether, especially on that Yamaha R6. It is a win for Danny Murphy. He takes the checkered flag. A great win ahead of Dan Neen. Obliterates the lap record. Connor Tagg takes 3rd ahead of Kyle Wilkes, and Curtis Wright finishes ahead of Richard McNeil. Danny Murphy there then confirmed as the race winner ahead of Dan Neen. 4 seconds advantage over a Formula 600 rider. Good going. Tagg 3rd, and it's Wilkes, Wright and McNeil. Confirmation of the super stock runners there. Murphy in the middle with Connor on the left and Kyle Wilkes on the right. And in the Formula 600s, you've got Dan Neen, Richard McNeil and Tom McHale.
Dan Neen, winner of the Formula 600 race. Can you tell us about the race out there? Tricky conditions?
Yeah, it was just, I think the track was just a bit cooler. The grip wasn't as much as the first one, but I just wanted to stay on in that one after slipping off in the 1000 race, really. So, but no, it was good. So, just like to thank Marks Bloom, Chartered Accountants, Alaman Steam Packet, ELAS, and Crow Morgan. Thanks a lot.
Excellent race, thank you. And winner of the Superstock 600 race, Danny Murphy, and also 2012 champion. How do you feel after the second race?
Yeah, it's great. It's the first time I've ever won all the races in a weekend, so it's something a bit different. It was a bit close in the first race today, and I was a bit shocked that I pulled away, to be honest, in the last race. But yeah, it was a good race. Tried to control it once I got a bit of a gap and ended up bringing it home safe. So.
You got fastest lap in that race also. Was it tricky conditions out there?
Well, I went out at first and we changed the suspension to soften it up a little bit because people were saying it was a bit wet, but I went out and it wasn't too bad. It was a bit cooler, and that's probably about it, so yeah. And
have you got any sponsors you'd like to thank?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Kepson Limited, EPDL, Hurst Property Management, Dave Bostock from Mac Tools, Fleet Graphics, Dave Tully's, Dane Easy Manchester, Nitro, and obviously my dad and Graham for this year.
Well done, Danny.